All right. So this bit here, this latest bit of news really does upset me. It may seem it's sort of small to some people. It may seem even warranted to some people. But basically they're censoring Roald Dahl. They is not the government. They is Roald Dahl's publisher, Puffin Books, and his estate, and a little outfit called Inclusive Minds, which is which is a collective of people who are passionate about inclusion, diversity, and accessibility in children's literature. Basically, sensitivity experts are going into Roald Dahl's books, taking out words that are deemed offensive, replacing them with less offensive words, taking out sections of the prose, replacing those with less offensive, rewritten by people who aren't Roald Dahl segments. And if you're not familiar, Roald Dahl is the author behind, well, a bunch of children's novels like James and the Giant Peach, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which, of course, Willy Wonka movies are based off of. Matilda, The Twits, and the list goes on. The BFG, one of the best children's books ever written. I mean, these are all wonderful books. The Witches. These are all wonderful books. But even if they were books that didn't have such a important place in my heart from reading them as a kid, from watching the movies that they were based on, watching the movies that were based on the books, even if this wasn't true, even if this was some author that I wasn't super familiar with, who is now dead, but wrote things that people now think are offensive, even if those books were being changed, even if I thought the things in those books were offensive myself, I would still say that this is a morally, ethically bankrupt move on the part of everyone involved. And that it's an atrocity. It's a censorious atrocity, and everyone involved should be ashamed. And everyone defending this is an enemy of art and literature. Straight up, an enemy of art and literature. And I said that on Twitter. I said, I don't remember exactly how I phrased it, but these people are defending pretty lies at the expense of ugly truths. And this is the thing about censorship. Roald Dahl was not a great person. He just wasn't. Just like Dr. Seuss. Plenty of people throughout history who have written or painted or made music have kind of rotten history, right? Some of these people were racist or sexist. Some of them were Nazi sympathizers, like, Walt Disney. Some of them, like Roald Dahl, were anti-Semitic. Roald Dahl was an interesting guy because he didn't even like kids, but he wrote all these great children's novels. I mean, Maurice Sendak, who wrote the Where the Wild Things Are, also doesn't like children, but loves to write beautiful illustrated children's stories. The point is, there's a lot of bad stuff in our history, and we can't go back and change it. And if you go back and you change the written works of great authors to fit a modern audience, you're just whitewashing the past. You're erasing the bad stuff, and that's dangerous. I mean, I don't understand how people don't see how dangerous that is. I mean, right now, if you think, well, this is enforcing my morality. This is, I believe in these things, and I believe words cause harm, and I believe that these offensive things in these books cause harm. So they should be changed because, Roald Dahl was a piece of shit. And I'm sure the same people would want to change J.K. Rowling's books, just say the same way because they don't like her, and so on and so forth. If you're not pure, then after you're gone, your work should be changed. But then the question always becomes, by whom? Like, what if you lose power? What if in the future, the people making these changes are actually fascists, are white supremacists and Nazis? What if they're making the changes? Why is it right when you do it, but not when they do it? Because everyone's got their morality. Everyone thinks that they're the good guy of their story. The point is you don't censor the offensive things for all of these reasons. And this raises a lot of questions also in my mind. What's going to happen to the Kindle version of these books? To any of these digital versions of these books? I read books on Kindle because it's convenient. I like to lay in bed and not have any lights on and just read on my phone. It's probably not the best way to do it, but for years, especially when you're in a relationship or something, you're trying to be respectful and you don't want to have a light on to read. Hell, it's just convenient, and we all slide into these conveniences. Well, okay, will my Kindle version of Matilda be updated to take out offensive passages? Will my Kindle version of, I don't actually have that book on Kindle, but theoretically, will my Kindle version of the Witches or the Twits be changed so that when I read it now, it's like having to watch the fucking original Star Wars trilogy after George Lucas came in and butchered it? Yeah, I'm still pissed at George Lucas for butchering his own trilogy. Because he took away, you can still watch it. You should pirate it and watch the unauthorized versions that fans have put together off of old reels and Laserdisc and all that. It's beautiful. Watching high definition original trilogy of Star Wars, the unauthorized version. I can't remember exactly what it's called. I'm sorry. I'll make a separate video about that because it's so great. That's taking it back. That's taking Star Wars back from everyone who's screwed it up after it was released. And that's what, how do we do that if all our books are digitized, which I think is overall a great thing. We should have books digitized because, that's another way of preserving books. Paper decays, right? Paper can burn. But this should be a wake-up call for everybody who owns books on Kindle and who might see those changed in the future, those altered, because sensitivity experts think that the word fat is too offensive for modern audiences. I'm going to buy every Roald Dahl book I can find before the new edition comes out. And I'm going to try to buy them all used because I don't want to give Puffin any money. I don't want any money from any sales of these books to go back to anyone involved in this fucking atrocity, because that's exactly what it is. It's an atrocity. It's censorship. It is the new PC culture, not like PC gaming, political correctness culture. It's the bullies and scolds from this culture trying to exert more control. And it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help any of these social justice causes they assert that they care about, that they claim to be championing. Because when you erase the bad stuff from the past and the offensive things from the past, you can no longer learn from those things. Now we read the Witches, and it's all sanitized, and we don't ever have that conversation with our kids about, maybe like, well, why did Roald Dahl say these things? What do those things mean? Maybe some of these things are hurtful, and we should talk about that. And then maybe we talk about Roald Dahl and some of the weird shittiness that he, the shitty views he espoused. He was, he wasn't a perfect individual, which is fine. Most people aren't. He also wrote a lot of erotic stories and adult stories. The schnozberries in Willy Wonka. They're in a separate thing. He explained that schnozberry is actually a lingo for dicks. So when she's licking the wall and says schnozberries taste like schnozberries, she's just saying that it tastes like dick. That's in a kid's book. That's offensive, right? But it's hilarious. And sometimes hilarious and offensive go together really, really well. And the more, that's another risk we take with sanitizing all the offensive things in the world, is we lose the humor of it. And that in turn, we're left with no joy. And without joy, all we have is these censorious scolds wagging their finger at everybody. Let's read about this, huh? The Guardian. It's a short one. Roald Dahl's children's books are being rewritten to remove language deemed offensive by the publisher Puffin. Puffin has hired sensitivity readers to rewrite chunks of the author's text to make sure the books can continue to be enjoyed by all today. Not by all, clearly. Just by those people that agree with the sensitivity readers. Resulting in extensive changes across Dahl's work. Edits have been made to descriptions of characters' physical appearances. The word fat has been cut from every new edition of relevant books, while the word ugly has also been culled. Augustus Gloop in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the German kid who, eats constantly, is now described as enormous. In the Twits, Mrs. Twit is no longer ugly and beastly, but just beastly. I'm offended that you would ever describe a woman as beastly. Hundreds of changes were made to the original text, and some passages not written by Dahl have been added. But the Roald Dahl Story Company said, "It's not unusual to review the language during a new print run, and any changes were small and carefully considered." Were they? In The Witches, a paragraph explaining that witches are bald beneath their wigs ends with the new line, totally new. "There are plenty of other reasons why women might wear wigs, and there is certainly nothing wrong with that." My God. In previous editions of James and the Giant Peach, the centipede sings, "Aunt Sponge was terrifically fat and tremendously flabby at that, and Aunt Spiker was thin as a wire and dry as a bone, only drier." Both verses have been removed, and in their place are the rhymes, "Aunt Sponge was a nasty old brute, and deserved to be squashed by the fruit, and Aunt Spiker was much of the same, and deserves half of the blame." Okay. References to female characters have disappeared. Miss Trunchbull in Matilda, once a most formidable female, is now a most formidable woman. What is a woman? Gender-neutral terms have been added in places where Charlie and the Chocolate Factory's Oompa Loompas were small men. They are now small people. The Cloud Men in James and the Giant Peach have become Cloud People. Puffin and the Roald Dahl Story Company made the changes in conjunction with Inclusive Minds, which its spokesperson describes as a collective for people who are passionate about inclusion and accessibility in children's literature. And they can all go fuck themselves. Whenever we talk about censorship, people always say, censorship is only when the state does it, only when the government does it. No. The First Amendment only protects us from state censorship. We have a right to free speech, which is protected under the law, but that does not protect us from civil censorship, from censorship, self-censorship, or companies censoring things, social media companies censoring things, publishers changing the works of authors who are dead and can no longer defend those works. Censorship exists outside of state censorship, and while it may not be quite as chilling, it's still a problem, and we should still remain vigilant, and that's why you should not give Puffin Books any more money. You should definitely go buy Roald Dahl's books, used if you can find them. If you can't find them, then yeah, go buy them before they change them, because it's just sad, isn't it? It's sad that they're taking this author's original work and they're letting sensitivity readers change it so that we can all enjoy it today in modern times. Roald Dahl was no angel, but this is absurd censorship. That's Salman Rushdie, who wrote the Satanic Verses, which was critical of Islam, and had a fatwa put out on his head. He had basically a bounty put out on his head by the high cleric in Iran, and for years lived, knowing that at any point somebody could attack him and possibly kill him, and just a year ago or so, he was attacked, in his 70s, attacked and stabbed at a talk he was giving. He went on to say, so Roald Dahl was no angel, but this is absurd censorship. Puffin Books and the Dahl Estate should be ashamed. Yes, absolutely, they should be ashamed. They should be ashamed and embarrassed. They should be laughed out of town. They should be chased out of town by the angry mob of readers who do not want sensitivity readers dictating what we can and cannot enjoy. If you are offended by Roald Dahl's books, you do not have to read them. If you are offended by the books, you can go through and scribble out the word fat and replace it with enormous. You can write little notes about how, women can be bald for other reasons, and you can even call Will Smith to come smack a bitch if you want, for talking shit about baldness. But you can't go and change all this old literature you don't like because you're too sensitive to any amount of offense. You don't have to play this video game that bothers you. You know, if the girl's tits are too big in it, you can play something else. If this book or this movie is too risque or people use words you don't like, tough. You don't have to watch it. You can watch something else. What are they going to do? Are they going to go back when Quentin Tarantino's dead and 50 years from now his estate is run by some greedy little asshole shit stain who now controls everything that he made, and they're going to go back and censor his movies and take out the N word and put in, ninja or something? What's going to happen? Where is the end game here? Do we go back and change Mein Kampf to make Hitler look good? Are we just going to make everything so sanitized and clean and pure that we forget it entirely? Everything that got us here in the first place? This seems like a recipe for disaster to me. And it definitely seems morally and ethically wrong. Clearly, I'm not very happy about this. I do love these books, but again, I would say that even if these were books that I had no feelings for whatsoever, that I wouldn't want them changed. Even if it was, something truly despicable, like the writings of Adolf Hitler, or any horrible person that has written manifestos or whatever. I don't want them changed. You can there are times when little changes make sense, right? If you're localizing something like the Harry Potter books from England to America, there's little changes to make them more discernible for an American reader. That makes sense. I can see that. If an author goes back and wants to make some edits for even Roald Dahl did this, of course, like Tolkien, lots of writers make changes and then a new edition comes out, or the publisher finds errors and a new edition comes out. There's lots of this. It's true that there are many changes to books as they are reprinted and edited, but to go in and change a dead author's work to make it less offensive to a modern audience maybe is not without precedent, but is certainly a brave new world. It is a new. It is not something that we have seen much of before this modern moment, this current moment we're living in now, when political correctness has gone really out of hand. And I just think it sets a bad precedent. It's enabling to people who want to control. You say, well, they have good intentions, but good intentions pave the road to hell. And this is certainly one of those moments where the more we accept censorship, and the more we say, well, it's just the publisher doing it, it's not the government doing it, the more we accept this kind of thing, the more likely we are to start living in a kind of world that dystopian science fiction portrays. Fahrenheit 411 or any of these others. I mean, it's funny. I just went to Ant-Man 3, and I'm going to make a video review of that soon. But in the previews, there was a trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and Rocket Raccoon at one point is talking about this guy who experimented on him when he was a baby or whatever, a baby raccoon. This guy, I don't know the character's name, but he says something about building a perfect society, and you hear Rocket say he doesn't want to build a perfect world. He just doesn't like the one we have. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing. And this actually, since I just had been thinking about the Roald Dahl censorship, this made me think, these people don't really want to build a perfect society, a perfect world. They're just so unhappy with the world we have that they have to go out and change it and censor it and edit it and manipulate it into being what they think is right and pure and good. And no one's more dangerous than a utopian. Nobody. So, anyways, I think I had more to say, but I'm going to leave it at that. I may do a follow-up video with anything else I think of. But, yeah, I would definitely, let Puffin Books know that you're not happy about this, unless you are happy about it. If you're happy about it, well, then please sound off in the comments and let me know why I'm wrong and why we should change literature and art to fit the modern audience. And I definitely don't mean like adapting Old English to modern English, because that's an understandable reason to make changes. But, whatever. Anyways, I'm going to go work on my Ant-Man stuff, some Last of Us, and all that. So stay tuned. Like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, of course. Someday somebody's going to go back into my videos and edit them to make them less offensive. So get it while it's hot, people. Peace.